Alright, so at long last, here it is, my review of Mongrels by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a book that a friend of mine recommended me quite some time ago, as in months and months ago. He recommended it to me. I put it off a long time. I was reading other things, doing other things. I was working a lot. I'm still working a lot. Fuck, you guys have no idea. Excuse me. You have no idea how much I have to like do these reviews around a full-time job, and it's crazy. Like those Goosebumps reviews I've been doing, pretty much working every day. I'm doing those too. But that's beside the point. Point is Mongrels. You guys are watching me talk about it, so let's talk about it. So the premise of it is it's about this boy growing up, and it's presented in kind of an experimental style. It's very non-linear. Like, it jumps around a lot. Like, in one chapter, the boy will be 14. Another chapter, he'll be 9. Another chapter, he'll be 10. So on and so on. And he's from a family of werewolves. And he's actually the only one. He's being raised by his aunt and his uncle because his mother died giving birth to him. And he's never known his father. And he's the only one who isn't a werewolf. He's kind of just a normal kid in this really weird scenario. He's from a really different outcast kind of family, and they have to move around a lot because, people catch on to the fact that they transform and go crazy at night, killing animals and eating roadkill and stealing chickens and all kinds of bizarre shit that the werewolf life entails. Hashtag werewolf life. And he is kind of in the middle of it. And he's kind of just, he's an outsider in society, but he's also an outsider from his werewolf roots. And he kind of just kind of feels awkward. Not only awkward in the sense that he's growing up, he's becoming a man, he's going through puberty, he's feeling adolescent emotions and dealing with adolescent things, like, a first girlfriend, which is a pretty interesting character I'll get to, but also dealing with the death of his grandfather. And his grandfather was also a werewolf and used to tell stories about it. However, he learns as he gets older that these stories were less the truth and more his way of saying that this thing that actually happened in a different way that he starts figuring out. Like, his grandfather's stories are more riddles, and you have to figure out kind of the true meaning behind the legend that he talks about. It's very good. I should definitely mention that right off the bat. It's a very good book. It's somewhere between genre fiction and literary fiction. It's written in a very conversational, colloquial style, but it's also very meticulous in how, like, the words and what words Jones uses, and his syntactical choices are very methodical, while seemingly very conversational and casual. So there's a lot of depth and a lot of well thought out execution going on here in the guise of just a first person and at times third person narrative. Like I said, this novel's kind of experimental in structure, so it alternates between chapters from the first person point of view, the boy talking directly to the reader, and then there's third person chapters, the distant narrator talking about the boy and his aunt and uncle, but they are referred to in vague terms. Most of the time, they're not even using their real names in the narrative description. So that adds an interesting angle to it, both within and without the personal point of view of the boy narrating the story. I really like that aspect. It's something I don't see very often. Novels that switch first and third person perspectives are, honestly, in my experience, pretty rare, and it's pretty cool to see one do it. And it gives it kind of a both intimate and distant kind of look at these characters and events going on. So just a little bit about the character. So the boy, as I've described, he's pretty normal. He's actually not a werewolf. He's excitedly anticipating changing. He wants to change for the first time. He wants to fit in with his aunt and uncle. His aunt is a very resilient, stoic character. She usually is the worker. Like when they move around a lot, she's always the one that gets like a night job or day job and works somewhere. Doing odd jobs here and there to put, money to provide groceries and things like that, to pay rent. His uncle is kind of just a blasé guy who kind of casually goes through life, while at the same time he does have a lot of layers. He has a lot of maturity to him. And this kind of blasé persona is more of an act he puts on to kind of hide his own personal feelings and struggles he feels. But at the same time, he really doesn't give a shit about the human world. He doesn't give a shit about the so-called normal responsibility society puts on people. And that actually adds an interesting kind of commentary on how these characters live outside, on the fringe of what normal society tells us to do and live and how to think and act and so forth. His uncle is a truck driver at various times. That's kind of what he's known for. He uses fake IDs to get jobs. And he likes to go out at night, rampage, hunt, kill, and, basically bask in the coolness and awesomeness of being a werewolf. He also has a penchant for robbing stores and drinking strawberry wine coolers. He really, really likes strawberry wine coolers. But he also really likes his nephew, and the two of them bond a lot. They watch old B movies on TV and hang out, and the boy kind of not only looks up to his uncle as a, cool dad figure, but also he just kind of feels like he can talk to him, guy to guy, more than he can to his aunt, who's kind of an ersatz mom figure in his life. But he loves both of them and cares about them both deeply, and they both love him too, and they have this very intense, strong, familial love going on between them. Because his aunt is the mother he never had, and his uncle is the dad he never had, and he looks at them as parental figures. And they look at him as kind of a son. I mean, not directly so, and they don't think of him literally as their son, but they look at him as kind of like the son they never had, because they never had children. Never even been married. Both of them have had boyfriends and girlfriends, but and that's dealt with too. There's a part where they go visit a guy that the aunt character named Libby used to date in the hospital because she thought she had killed him because he was abusive, but she turns out she had bitten him and turned him into a werewolf as well. And to kind of make amends for that, they visit him in the hospital while he's in a coma, and feed him his werewolf form, which they waken out of him while his human form's still asleep, a live rabbit. And it doesn't go into any gory details or anything, but it gets the point across that this is a nasty business. And it's very interesting, the treatment of werewolves. It treats werewolves as very non-judgmental. This novel doesn't portray werewolves as cool or hip, nor does it portray them as tragic, serious figures. It kind of just portrays them from the boy's perspective of, this is how it is. There is a bit of a kind of a hipness to it, though, and some of its aspects it's described with. There's kind of an aspect of, humans don't get this, we're living on the outside of society, But at the same time, it doesn't shy away from, humans have been killing us for years, and humans don't understand this, and, we could be bloodthirsty in our wolf form going crazy. So it kind of looks at both in a pretty unbiased perspective, and I enjoy that about it as well. But all in all, it's just a very well-written novel, and a very engaging story. It's basically a coming-of-age story in the guise of a werewolf novel. And that's a very cool, interesting combination. It definitely makes me want to read more by Stephen Graham Jones. He's written quite a body of work, which I feel like he's kind of the indie rock band of authors in that he's written a lot of work, and in certain circles it's very acclaimed. But the general reading public doesn't know who he is, nor do they even know about his body of work. Everyone I've talked to in person has never even heard of this novel, much less him. And that's not really surprising given the kind of indie literary circle he's a part of, and which I'm slowly getting into myself, and which the friend of mine that I have who recommended this is very versed in and reads basically these indie guys a lot more than mainstream writers that everyone knows about. But that's kind of a shame, because out of that kind of group I've read, and definitely from, Stephen Graham Jones's novel, these guys definitely deserve more attention. And they deserve to be mainstream more than, like, the hack writers on the market today, Because honestly, most pop fiction is just garbage, and it fucking sucks. And it's sad to see quality writing like this get ignored and overlooked in favor of whatever bullshit James Patterson novel's out. So, come at me, it's true. But definitely read Mongrels. I highly recommend it. Another reason I want to do this review is just to bring attention to it, because no one, I know a lot of people have never heard of it, and probably won't ever have heard of it unless I did this video. So for all, few of you guys out there who watch my stuff, I gotta bring it to your guys' attention. So definitely check out Mongrels. It's definitely worth the read. It's funny, it's witty, it's interesting, it can be disturbing, it's sad,